What up, everyone? It's your boy Weeded, and you're watching Cellycast.
Despite not being able to win the Grand Finals in North America's Stage 2 Closed Qualifier 1 for VCT Challengers, XSET against 100 Thieves still put on a really good series with only one map missing the 24-round mark, going 10-13. It was a great series overall, and XSET showed why they should no longer be considered an underdog, and in particular, Ascent. Their attacking side of Ascent, to be more specific, was phenomenal against 100 Thieves, and today we're going to be taking a deeper look at it. So before we even jump into the actual round, I want to take a quick look at the agent composition that XSET are using. It's a little bit unorthodox, at least from a typical North American agent composition standpoint. They are running Aaron, who typically used to play Raze. He's going to be running Astra Weeded. We all know and love him. He's known for his Viper. Not always runs the Viper. He used to run, I believe, Omen on this map. Pierre running the Raze over Aaron. He used to run the Jet. At BCJ, one of the best Sovas in North America, undoubtedly, will be running, of course, his Sova. Same thing for Thwifo, a little bit of a mix-up. He used to be running KJ or Cypher from time to time, depending on the map. He's decided to run Sage. So it's a little bit of an interesting composition in terms of what we see in North America. Honestly, we don't really see this in any other region, but just to kind of divulge what this agent composition really does is that I really like this agent composition because you have two controllers, and the best thing about two controllers that we've seen in maybe the case of TSM when they ran Brimstone and Omen for a time during their run in the open qualifiers back in stage 1 of North America VCT Challengers, is that having two controllers allows you to set up a lot of fakes. And the thing is that with Viper, you have that preset wall, that preset poison orb that kind of telegraphs as to where you're going. And maybe in the eyes of many teams, right, if we were to throw the Viper wall up on A and it were to split off the entire A site, covering obviously a portion of A main, the controller, or apologies, the doorway, and then a little bit of heaven, what would happen is that a lot of teams, if you see that poison orb go down as well, you would assume that, okay, this is going to be an A hit. But the fact is that you still have a possibility of two more smokes being dropped because you have an Astra to work against. So that's how XSET's composition works a lot, is that they love to do a lot of fakes. They like to cut noise a lot in this game as well. And it was a lot of cool executions and set pieces comboing with Thwifo's utility and alongside that utility of Aaron's Astra. So we're going to see this route and kind of what they decide to do when it comes to an A execution and how they work about the map when it comes to cutting noise. So jumping straight into this one, it's round 13. For context, our first half was 8-4 for 100 Thieves when they were on their attacking side. XSET now need to make a comeback here on their attacking side. They won the pistol round. It's an eco round here for 100 Thieves, and XSET, they're looking to turn this one at least into a bonus for their third round. They're on an anti-eco essentially. So a couple of things automatically that come to note is this cool combination of utility thrown down by Aaron. So at least from the viewpoint of 100 Thieves, this looks to already be an A execution, right? You've got the wall going up instantly. You've got an Astra Star here, which could be used as a grab well, or if they want to, if they run out of toxins, have that safety as a secondary smoke, and a grab well here that'll be soon activated, placed down to pull players into an A main peak, allowing these players here, Pierre and Weeded, to try and maybe find an early pick. So there's a lot of things set up here by XSET that kind of telegraphs that this is going to be an A play, but just in case they don't want to fully exit into A and maybe they want to cancel back, or maybe they want to cut noise and have the peace of mind that they're not getting flanked on at the moment, they have Thwifo just in case watching their back lines. He's going to try and battle for control from time to time using slow orbs, even sometimes committing to peaks towards B main. And one thing to note is that 100 Thieves, at least for this round and in a couple rounds later on, I don't really contest mid a lot, right? Sometimes we might see Hiko here in the back dropping his Alodrone, Ascent on Nitro maybe taking the peak from Catwalk, but typically we're not going to see too much of that from 100 Thieves, and it's a great read by XSET later down the line as to not really fight mid too much and kind of use that as an exit, and they themselves don't really need to contest mid, like I said, because 100 Thieves themselves aren't putting too much pressure. So we're going to dive into it.
Aaron up onto that sidewalk position, and wow, a fantastic way to win a 1v1.
So instantly, obviously, you're going to hate it. I'm going to be positive on that. Instantly, Weeded throws this wall up. So what this wall allows, at least for Pierre to do, is that while this wall is in the midst of going up, he gets the timing right so that Pierre can peek in, as he does have this shoulder angle here. He can see who's there, how many are there, and what's going on. And they even combo that utility, or they combo this peak with a piece of utility from BCJ, who's going to collect information in towards A with a recon bolt. So this is the info that's been gathered. They've activated the grab wall to try and pull players out because they understand that with that recon bolt, these players here, in particular Hiko and Asuna, if they went for this early peek, they were going to fall away to try and avoid the recon bolt. So they use a grab wall here to try and keep them there to allow Weeda to get this free peek after Pier has gotten the info peek off of it already. So what Weeda already instantly sees is that they know, okay, so there's guaranteed going to be at least 2 players here. The recon bolt is going to take Hiko here in a second, and he can very, very nearly spot Ethan. So we're going to see him kind of flick to this player as an instant reaction. So what they know instantly is, okay, there's guaranteed 2 players. They might want to infer because Aaron is taking a peek down towards mid. There's been no aggression towards B main. It's probably going to be a 3 or 4 player stack here on A, because the normal reaction for at least the defending side is once you lose map control here, you need to instantly react by getting some B main pressure here. Now Steel does have that B control, but nobody's really pushing forward trying to cause a flank. So it's kind of an inference here that XSET are making that there's probably going to be a stack on this A site. It's an eco round. It makes sense. So here's the reaction that Weeded ends up doing as a result of this contact and as a result of this force shown by 100 Thieves is what he's going to first do is he'll first send a snake bite that it's going to land right here in order to prevent these players that they've already know and that they're anticipating to be a stack, prevent them from swinging. So what they're now going to do is they're going to isolate this fight. They know this is a free pick. They've seen Ethan cross over, so he then throws a second a snake bite so that he can't push forward. He can't try and get out. They even combo a Nova Pulse to try and delay another swing coming from A main. So the nades go in to isolate that kill. So what they have right now is a lot of contests towards A main. They obviously don't come out on top of it, but they will make quick adjustments by getting that first pick, forcing 100 Thieves to overcommit to this fight, and then XSET, they can slow down, they can cancel if they want, they can chill out just a little bit. So with Aaron getting another pick here as well over towards A main, what this now allows at least XSET to do is, well, Thwipe's been watching that flank for so long, it hasn't come even when 100 Thieves made that contact into A main. They know that there's not going to be a late push, right? Because why would you push now rather than later when your team has already made that contact? So they cut noise here. Thwipe was going to reinvestigate back towards mid. He's going to see nothing. Aaron is just going to chill out, maybe wait for that heal, and XSET with cutting noise, with slowing the pace down, adjusting the tempo however they please, because they already have that set piece utility. They can re-exit into A whenever they want, right? 25 seconds left. They have the wall up. They can do whatever they need. They can take their time, you know. It's not a big rush to get back into A, and it's thanks to the fact that Weeda is preemptively set up that Viper's wall. So it's a pretty clean and straightforward execution. It does get a little bit messy here in the back site, but heavy damage done by Thwifo makes it a little bit more possible in this 2v2 scenario where Aaron just has to watch the main extremities, that being Heaven and that being that back Jenny where they know Hiko is. So in a 2v1 with Steel having the Bucky, the odds obviously are going to be extremely heavily stacked against him. So it's a pretty clean XSET win, and we're seeing small samples of how they like to play this execution by cutting noise, slowing things down, really doing late executions into these rounds. So we're skipping forward just a little bit to round number 17. XSET, they won an anti-eco, or they won a half buy in particular. It was the last round, round number 16, where they ultimately had, I think, a Phantom, 2 Frenzies, a Spectre. It was a very wonky buy against a very strong buy from 100 Thieves. It was a burst play into the A site. So to this point, from the round that I showed you first, it's been about 3 rounds, and in each of those 3 rounds, XSET have done pretty much the same with a lot of control over towards the A side. That Viper's wall is kind of a condition or a premeditated Viper wall from Weeded is conditioning 100 Thieves to expect A main pressure, and so you can see kind of a heavier stack towards this A side. Steel's going to be back towards B, doing what he does best, soloing that site, and then he go back down towards mid. So we're going to see how XSET kind of adjusts here after conditioning 100 Thieves for the past 4 rounds that when there's a Viper's wall in A, there's going to be pressure, but this time there is none, and there's a little bit of a variation. So already instantly you can see Thwipe's had crazy walls this entire series, but this wall in particular isn't really anything out of the ordinary. It's a wall that gives him elevation. He's going to be able to peek back into market. And what this does is it allows Pier to kind of crawl out, take an early peek over here towards Catwalk, allow Weedon and BCJ to kind of walk out. And now it's this really good triple swing, really, that happens here by XSET. It would have been a triple swing, but unfortunately, the Owl Drone does end up tagging BCJ, so he's not able to help this fight out. But this setup in general, right? The Thwifo setting up that wall to kind of get that information for his teammates to allow them to walk up mid and fight heavy towards catwalk. After conditioning on your thieves that you're really not going to be able to win A main, you're going to have to try and get control elsewhere, and that's going to have to be garden. So XSET, they make that adjustment. They decide to walk 3 players out mid, and so this fight in particular is a really good one. So what this ultimately does is that when the players swing catwalk, your main focus isn't going to be like this area, right? You're going to be focused on this beautiful green lady, this handsome man named Wadid. You're going to be fully focused on him. And you can see that Asuna is completely locked in on him. Same thing here with Ethan right behind him. We don't get his POV, unfortunately, but we can assume and infer that they're going to be fully committed to this fight. And that's why Pierre is able to collect this kill. So it would have been a 3v2 in this scenario, but of course BCJ does get pinged out. So this fight ultimately does go the way of XSET, and that's why Pierre doesn't lose any HP, is because Weeded takes the contact, right? He takes the fight. They win the fight. They kill 2 players on A, and XSET immediately slowed down. Now, this isn't a round that XSET ultimately win, if you do remember from watching the game, or I can just tell you right now, they don't win this round. It's unfortunately due to a really nutty play from Nitro that ultimately closes it out for them for 100 Thieves, and XSET, they can't pick it up. But it's a very sick round from XSET, and it kind of shows the commodities that they're allowed because of the fact that they have already set the precedent, or they've conditioned 100 Thieves that a Viper wall equals A main control. So we see that again here a little bit. We saw Thwifo, who on this wall supported his teammates to get up mid. Now he hops back over towards the wall that connects A main. He peeks into A because he understands that they didn't contest at all, right? They didn't put any pressure towards A main, so there could be a flank. He checks for it, and XSET, they do ultimately re-exit into the A site after Aaron watches the B flank. It doesn't go their way, like I said, so we're going to skip forward. You're going to see the crazy Nitro play that he ends up doing here on this A site. It's a really sick hold from Nitro, but again, I think this is a really good round that kind of shows how XSET like to play this game, or how they played this attacking side, and ultimately, they do end up winning this map, so this is just a very small sample size of what we're going to see later on. This round 18 of the Ascent game between 100 Thieves and X has to arguably be my favorite round almost of all time. Like, this execution, I would say of all time, but there's another round very similar to this that's also really, really sick. But this is one of the best execs I've seen in a while when it comes to BSN. And I mean that with no understatement at all. Like, the execution, the workup, the build up to it, and what they do in this round, the combination of utility is astounding, and it was beautiful to watch live. And watching it back, I still get the same thrill off the utility that they use. So I'm gonna break it down kind of as it goes along. So what we're gonna see is a Viper wall set up by Weeded that's gonna split the site, and so I'm gonna pause right here. What this wall allows is that it allows you to isolate fights. So normally when you have a smoke, right, or if you maybe have an Omen instead of Weeded, or you want to use the Astra smokes, is that you're going to smoke here, you're going to smoke here. But what this wall allows you to do is it allows you to isolate the fights here and towards here without fear of someone walking through the defender smoke, or someone walking through the market smoke and jumping you as you're trying to commit to this fight. So it's a big wall that Weeded throws that works really well in the hands of XSET, and we're going to see how they kind of work around this and the other utility that they decide to combo. So they work their way into B main. Asuna goes for a very early peek. He ultimately doesn't win the fight. Now, Thwifo does a boost up over the kind of the window, I guess we can call it, of B main. And so he kind of has a little bit of a one-way, right? The Viper wall goes up. The wall goes up as well. He gets a little bit of elevation where he can peek into market and kind of take that early fight. And even cooler is Aaron has already thrown a star down here, and it's a grab well that forces anyone in this area, anyone that wants to support Asuna in this fight, because they understand that this wall isolates this area, and Steel needs to try and support his teammate the best he can, and that's going to be through spraying through a smoke. What they do is they throw a grab well that forces the player in market to kind of, or it doesn't force them, right, but it kind of pulls them, literally pulls them into the open arms of Thwifo, who can take this fight. And even if he doesn't win it, he's put enough pressure on to Steel to force him away, and now they just got to isolate Asuna in the back. What's happened here already, though, is they've heard the teleportation from Nitro. Most of the time you can infer this is going to be back site. In this instance, it makes the most sense for it to be back site because that's where the best area to support Asuna is, right? If you TP here, you can't really support Asuna. But if you TP in the back site, you can support your teammate Asuna, who's ultimately getting overwhelmed right now. And so a big win here by Thwifo. Maybe a little bit of a misplay from Asuna, but it's a really cool play again that XSET ultimately ended up doing. A quick double blast back or a single blast back entry by Pierre here is a really big win. And that second fight that he wins against Nitro as well, they all push in, right? So it's not just Asuna. Asuna pulls players, he pulls Nitro's angle. Even if he doesn't win, there's guaranteed going to be a trade here. As already 3 players are trying to charge into Boathouse. So a really sick entry from XSET. I have to say, again, this is probably one of my favorite rounds throughout this entire game, and I think one of the best B-side executions that I've seen. I feel like I don't do it enough justice because there's just so much going on that I want to break down, but I don't want to make this video too long. But they do ultimately win the round. In a 4 versus 2, it all comes down to the post plant. Dwight was obviously going to be holding that cross. That wall up forces them to walk through this area here as well. Walk through this area, kind of forces them that area. And one thing that maybe I didn't mention before because it wasn't necessarily relevant at the time is the wall does have a little bit of extended area. So if you are in a post plant and players are coming from the defender spawn, you're kind of screwed walking through a Viper smoke. Imagine this was patch 2.06. You're not winning the retake from here. You're gonna have to win it from here. So that wall has a lot of versatility and a lot of post-round implications. But XSET, again, probably one of my favorite executions of all time on BSC. So once more, we've jumped forward just a little bit. We're going to round 20. We just saw round 18. Nothing really crazy happened in between. It was, again, a pretty standard round for XSET. It was an eco round for 100 Thieves. This round, though, is a little bit interesting. Or apologies, it was a full buy from 100 Thieves. This is their eco round. My bad. This round is a little bit interesting, at least from the side of 100 Thieves. It's another eco round. 100 Thieves have loved to stack on eco rounds from what we've seen so far in this map. So I think XSET are kind of expecting it here. And that's what happens out towards this area. So Thwifo, who has been this lurk over towards B whenever XSET decide to heavy focus on A and a little bit down towards mid, he hears an owl drone. So he's going to ultimately back away here in a second to prevent them from getting that information. So now what this does. So this is the big read, and it all works because this is an eco round. So maybe if this was a rifle round, the Thwifo doesn't say, okay, we should maybe rotate back to B because they've already got full control of B main. The reason why that he calls this is because most of the time on an eco round is you need to get aggressive, right? You need to force the situation. What I always say is that even in clutches, in any situation where you are at a disadvantage, you need to create an opportunity. And to create an opportunity is getting in your opponent's face, being a little unpredictable, catching them off guard. That's what 100 Thieves want to do here. Is they want to catch the B main play off guard, right? After getting destroyed in the round we saw in round 18, getting destroyed in that one, the goal is going to be, we need to try and shift the momentum back to our side by trying to get aggressive, trying to open it up. And with a three-star setup here, right? This could be a gravel or a nebula. This could be a nebula as well. This could be a nebula. This could be a gravel, right? All the utility setup is kind of leaning to a B hit. But the fact is that once 100 Thieves have cleared, they're like, oh, these stars are just a fake. We've got B main control. We may not have mid control, but that's why we're going to check here just in case. We know this isn't going to be B hit. So you see an instant rotation after the owl drone goes out, after Thwifo tries to respond with a slow orb. 2 players instantly peel back. Nitro hangs around just a little bit to check out market, but ultimately, the majority of the players rotate back from at least 100 Thieves, and they do the same thing here XSET. They start to peel back, they throw the Viper wall up, but it is Steel's presence that sells that this isn't going to be a fake. Now, XSET kind of understand this. They understand that with that wall going up and them not putting any pressure, 100 Thieves can assume that this is a double fake, right? This is an A site fake. After they've lost control of B main, they instantly pull back, and XSET, they slow down. This is the big thing, is it throws uncertainty to the way of 100 Thieves, where it's like, is this a double back fake to B? Is it not? So they get caught a little bit unaware. The positioning from 100 Thieves isn't going to be favored. Steel is still on the A site. Hiko is still down towards mid. Players are kind of isolated. And again, we see that wall boost from Thwifo that catches Asuna off guard. It's all a matter of just clearing players out. They take down Ethan in the back of sight. It's just Nitro in the back. Hiko does get a big shock dart kill, but an instant revive back from Thwifo. Down to a 4 versus 2. All the advantages lie here with XSET, but it's super patient, and they control the tempo. That's the biggest thing about any attacking side, is controlling the tempo, understanding the pull and the rotations and what information your team has, or what information your team has and what information your opponent has, and playing around that. And that's what XSET do here. Literally perfect. Okay, so earlier I said that B execution that we saw, I think it was in round 18, was my favorite execution of all time. Well, this is up there. Another B execution, pretty much the same thing, but a very small variation in the fact that BCJ has decided to buy an Odin. So XSET, they feel out the pressure. Thwifo is being that lurk over towards the A side, ensuring that they can't just get instant control. He tosses out a slow orb here, and to be more specific, to slow down any pressure so they can't get instant control. A Nebula goes up here to prevent the catwalk area. So they're denying information for 100 Thieves, basically, is that you can't get A main, despite not us throwing up that Viper's Wall. We still could be A main. Again, that's kind of the beauty of this composition, is that you can do so many fakes, you do so many cool setups with XSET, right? You can throw stars everywhere, you can fake them out, throw nebulas too, grab whatever you want, and you can still fall back on that Viper Wall you set up early. So that's why they deny info, at least on that A side, so they can cancel back if they ever want to, right? Aaron can still set up with that single smoke. But the tag comes in, Ethan gets spammed down. He does actually end up living, but with all that spraying, they kind of damage the wall a little bit. There's even a grab wall here instantly thrown out by Aaron to try and suck Ethan back into this fight and try and allow BCJ to spam in this area in particular to try and close him down. But it doesn't work out. So XSET, they slow things down again. Again, that's the biggest thing, is that they've slowed things down. So while the smoke here thrown by Nitro dissipates, a long smoke from the A site comes in towards B. That'll kind of slow down again. Exit just a little bit, but they want that, right? They're going to slow things down. They're going to set the tempo. It's all about tempo control. And with that wall going up, they can re-exit at any time. They can cancel out any time because 100 Thieves don't have any main control. While that might not be beknownst to XSET, they have the ability to cancel at any time because of that single slow orb thrown, and that's what they'd bank on if they need to cancel out here. So we'll see the execution again. Very similar to what we saw in the last. A little bit different, though. Definitely a little bit different because it's a double boost up, and it's BCJ literally just tearing them apart. A really nice dink onto Steel as well. A Hunter Sphere to try and respond does force the two players boosting up away, but what this does now is that forces Steel. They now know Steel's the only one here, so they slow down. They go so slow. After all that noise, they're like, dude, let's just chill. We don't really need to overcommit. And you see Hiko on the minimap kind of going back towards the A side. A little bit awkward here, at least for 100 Thieves, is they don't really know. The wall does go up. Nitro ultimately gets a pick. They know where he's going to be. And the reason why Pure is able to get this kill so easily, and why he really gets aggressive here, and it might just be obviously Pure is an insane player. He loves to get super aggressive, but we'll see, kind of understand why he's like, oh, I'm hunting for this kill. Steel is going to throw an alarm bot here, and Pure is going to react. So Pure is going to see the alarm bot. He's going to break it, and he understands Steel is going to have his knife out. He's going to try and retreat, right? You've thrown an alarm bot here. Your goal is to fall the F back into Boathouse. And so Pure pounces on that, gets the kill back, controls the B site. They know where Nitro is. It's all about isolating this fight. A 3v2. You've got the Hunter Sphere. You've got the Viper's Pit, which goes online here by Weeded. And the thing is, with the B side as well, it's just awful to play against a Viper's Pit, right? To try and retake that area is god awful. And so XSET, it's a pretty easy round victory, but I really, again, love their B executions. Honestly, it's got to be one of the most fun and explosive execs I've seen. I could go on and on for the last two rounds, but it's more or less the same that we saw in the very beginning of this video that I showed you with their opening rounds, being A executions, cutting noise, stuff like that. But you get the memo. XSET played this map beautifully, and I thought it was a masterclass of how to play attacking Ascent, and I thought there was no better way to show it than a very long form video and very cool rounds that I saw. Again, my two favorite rounds of the entire series had to be those B executions, but I want to show that just the difference that Weeded's Viper made and the Astra that Aaron had as well. I feel like, again, everyone in XSET was popping off, right? There was no one slacking. There was no one just doing nothing. It was a beautiful combination of everyone putting their way in, right? Using the utility properly. Thwifo had an instrumental role, even being a late lurk, despite not getting maybe the top frag or getting as many kills. Same thing with Pure. Had very good entries. Aaron and BCJ were consistently amazing this entire series. So we can see the huge difference. So obviously this is the final score, but on the defense, you can see it was very weak. Aaron was probably the best player throughout this entire series. Maybe in particular, this map might be pulling it just a little bit. BCJ was still kind of nuts, but you can see the difference, right? Pure -7. He was getting destroyed. 1 first death, 4 first bloods for Weeded, but they still couldn't get any rounds. And then on the attack, they had the majority of the first bloods with only 1 first death. So you can see the huge difference. Not a single player going negative. We did Thwifo being the only one going neutral. But that's also, again, because he was kind of playing the support role, watching those lurks. But 12 flipping assists in a single half. That's great support from Thwifo. So again, this stat line is just to show you maybe the huge difference that at least XSET had when it came to their attacking side of Ascent. Of course, guys, if you made it to this portion of the video, we're going to do a little bit segment. Comment down below your favorite moment in this series, whether it be the insane executions, the insane ace by Ethan on Haven. I've got no idea. But of course, if you guys did like the video, make sure you do drop a like, drop a comment, what you want to see next, and subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at SillyCast. I'm at SillyCast on all platforms. You know the vibe, you know the deal. We'll be back for another video sometime soon.